Well, hey, good morning. It's around 7:30 Sunday morning. Been up a couple hours and just kind of hanging out in the backyard. It's been pretty nice. It's probably about 65, 70 degrees right now, if that. So kind of just a little cooler morning. But I wanted to give you guys a real quick tour of the garden, just show you what's going on, what's going well, what's not, maybe. And so here we go. Here are my peas. Basically, they did really well this year. They're on the downhill slide now. So what we're doing is just letting these vines dry out. I'd used twine to keep them on the trellis because they kept wanting to go south. Well, they still went south, but they did manage to get about 4.5, 5 foot tall before they started draping over. But we're gonna let these dry out. We're gonna harvest the seed pods and keep them in a nice little place for seeds for next year. But extremely productive. We snacked on these a lot of mornings. Had them for lunches and stuff. Kids had them as snacks as they were playing outside. But the plan is to put cucumbers in here next. It's not too late for those and they grow really quick, so we'll see how that goes. Here's the potato bin. It's nearing the end. Foliage is starting to turn a little bit at the bottoms. There's a couple of them that have set these little seed balls. They have flowered already and all that. So what we'll probably do is stop watering this and just let it dry out, and then we're going to crack this sucker open and see what we got from our 21 seed potatoes. Planted 8 pounds, so I'm going to try to weigh what we get. Hopefully we got something decent, I'm hoping, but curious to see. Here's our peppers. Maybe not as vigorous as last year, but they still look really good. And they've set some pretty nice fruits. I think the agricultural lime made a difference. It seemed like they set fruits earlier this year than last year. So I don't know. Kind of a slow start, I think, because of the wood chips, but overall they're doing pretty decent. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do as the summer progresses. We got some eggplants too. And then there's the tomatoes. And overall they're doing really well. Cherry tomatoes just have tons of flowers on them. I mean, some of these guys, the branch there for all the fruits is forked like 4 times, and there's like 6 to 8 on each side, and it's still growing. This is Sungold, black cherry, and then Chadwick cherry. We got some nice cherry tomatoes here. But pretty soon I'll be cutting the growth tip here. We're not going to let this get much taller. And I've been trying to keep these to a single stem, which has been difficult. They've been pretty vigorous. Especially this new variety here. This is a hybrid from Burpee. It's called Super Sauce. Never grown them before, but just tons of fruit on this thing. Tons of flowers. There's fruit at the bottom. And they advertise these to get as big as a mason jar, or to fill a mason jar. It's a sauce tomato. So I'm curious to see. But just a really strange tomato to grow. I mean, just its growth habit is just all over the place. It doesn't grow really straight. It's just like a tangled mess. You know, it was hard to see where the growth tip was. You know, for example, looking at this one, you know, look at this, and here's the growth tip, and it's starting to curve out like a leaf, and then here's a new, it looks like a sucker, but I'm leaving it in case, you know, because I believe it's the growth tip, because there's flowers here. So it's just been a challenge to prune. And then, you know, things that you think are suckers end up being fruiting branches. So I've had to be kind of careful and just kind of be, you know, patient and wait and see how this thing develops, and then kind of prune accordingly. Then we've got the heirloom tomatoes. You know, we've got 2 rows of those, and they're doing great. We've got some pretty big whoppers that they're growing there. I think that it's either Kellogg's Breakfast or Dester that's growing there. We've got some black Brandywines and Brandywines that are growing. There's a ladybug. But overall, the tomatoes have been pretty successful. Not a lot of disease or worm issues or anything like that, at least yet. Not yet, anyway. Here's the carrot beds. I had to do this again. I would have covered the seed. I just kind of got lazy and just broadcast it on there and then tried, you know, watering it in. But what I should have done was covered it with some sand or you know, something, straw, something to cover it, because it's just taking a little while. And this bed not as good as this one. This one I need to kind of go through and maybe thin out a little bit to see what we got. Then we got our hot peppers, and they're already setting. I mean, there's a lot of fruits on them, but they're not, again, not near as big as last year's, which I think again is the wood chips and just kind of a slow start, being stunted by the weather a little bit. I've got kale and onions in here, and I've been eating on my kale. You know, working it into omelets and things like that. Obviously, I got some weeding to do. So I've got a bucket here and my scuff hoe that I'm going to be using to kind of clean out the garden paths a little bit. So anyway, that's pretty much the little garden here. Oh, I didn't show you the raised beds. This lettuce bed has kind of made a comeback. I stopped watering it, and I think that helped. The slime molds are gone. We got rid of the American cockroaches that were in this thing by putting boric acid in all the joints, a powdered form, and that seemed to have gotten rid of them. And then the greens here, I've not eaten any of these greens really. They've more been just a trap crop. And you can see the worms and various insects have gotten to them. And that's okay. We've got our herbs. The mint, as usual, is just going off. Chocolate mint. We've got some oregano, some rosemary. The basil is pretty much done, and part of that is I think my kids cut it too close and more or less killed it. But that's okay, we can replant that. And then we've got our cilantro, which is looking a little sickly. We might end up replanting that too. This bit I've just kind of let go. I've got my radishes I'm letting go to seed so I can get some seeds from them. I have a couple tomato plants that are growing in here and just kind of letting them see what happens. And the kids got a little pepper they've been nursing along just for the fun of it. So anyway, that's I guess that's all. If you got any questions or comments or whatnot, feel free to post. Other than that, until next time, happy gardening. Bye.